Hello, welcome to World History 101. This is going to be chapter 4, Early Societies in the Americas. So, as we start this chapter, we're going to begin with Mesoamerica. Mesoamerica is a cultural zone in Central America that ranges from roughly 100 miles north of Mexico City to Costa Rica. And when you think about the Mesoamerican cultures, anytime you hear that word Meso, you should think Middle America or Central America. So the Mesoamerican culture are civilizations in Mexico and Central America. As you read this chapter, pay attention to the importance of their use of human sacrifice as well as bloodletting rituals that are designed to ensure that the gods remain happy. If the gods remain happy, it means that the people are going to be continually blessed. Remember when we talked in chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, the idea of keeping the gods happy, because that would mean that the gods would send us rain, which would translate to successful agricultural crops. When we talk about these American civilizations, these American cultures, many of them can be traced to nomadic migrations across the Bering Strait land bridge, Bering. So again, many of the American cultures can be traced to nomadic migrations. Did the sun just shift? Because that got it blew my light out real quick in my office. Sorry. Many of the American cultures can be traced to nomadic migrations across the Bering Strait, Strait, land bridge. During the last ice age, large amounts of water were locked into ice blocks, and as a result, it lowered the sea levels and created a land bridge that allowed the Paleolithic people to follow the animals into North America. Like other societies we've discussed, American cultures developed agriculture, and as the agriculture increased, so too did populations. Remember, it's the same pattern over and over and over again. Anytime a civilization makes the shift to agriculture, we're going to see an increase in the available food supply. Increase in the available food supply leads to an increase in population. Increase in population leads to the development of cities. We get specialized labor, formal government, stratified societies. Remember, social hierarchy societies, because now we have the accumulation of wealth, we have long distance trade, and ultimately we get organized religions. Cool. Our first group that we're going to talk about in Mesoamerica is going to be back up. So as you look at this chapter, make sure that you're paying attention to the region. So this chapter is the Americas as a whole. So it represents Mesoamerica, which is Central America, like Middle America, but it also includes South American cultures like Andean, like the Andes mountain range. It also includes Andean civilizations. So make sure that you're paying attention to the region of these particular civilizations. So the first civilizations we'll start with are going to be the Olmecs. The Olmecs live in Mesoamerica. When we talk about the Olmecs in Mesoamerica, I also need you to understand that the Andean, those South American civilizations that we'll talk about later, and the Mesoamerican civilizations or cultures, they arise independently of one another. So they're not influencing one another. Their development is not contingent upon the other, because one thing about Western Hemisphere, which is where the Americas are located, one thing about Western Hemisphere civilization is that these cultures are going to lack large domesticated animals. So that means that their labor is definitely going to be more labor intensive. And it means that they're not going to engage in long distance trade, because they would need animals, like large domesticated animals, to pull carts to engage in trade. Okay. So when we talk about the development of agriculture in Mesoamerica, we're going to see corn or maize, Maize, is going to be a major agricultural contribution of the people in the Americas. Maize is going to be a staple food for many societies. There are some differences that we should pay attention to between Mesoamerican cultures, Western Hemisphere cultures, and Eastern Hemisphere societies. So in Mesoamerica, they lack large domesticated animals. You see that light again. In Mesoamerica, they lack large domesticated animals. So because of that, the people have to prepare the fields themselves, and the traders, traders, they have to carry the goods themselves. Another difference between Western Hemisphere, like Mesoamerican cultures, and Eastern Hemisphere cultures is that the Mesoamericans, we're going to see only royals, elite, and the priest living in the ceremonial centers. And everyone else is going to live in the surrounding villages. They only gather in the ceremonial centers for special occasions. The Olmecs are important because they are the first complex society in the Americas. So in chapter 1, we talked about how the Sumerians were the first complex society, period. The Olmecs are going to be the first complex society in the Americas. The Olmecs are known as the rubber people, and that's because of the vast amount of rubber trees that are grown in this region. The Olmecs are wealthy and they are artistic. The oldest Olmec site is known as San Lorenzo. The oldest Olmec site is known as San Lorenzo. San Lorenzo is going to be home to Olmec Stone, Olmec, Olmec, stone buildings and pyramids. The Olmecs are probably best known for their sculptures of these large fossil stone heads. These stone heads range anywhere from 12 feet to 14 feet tall. They're huge. They were probably a rigid dictatorship, but most important, we know that the Olmecs, just like the Mesopotamians, influenced people like the Phoenicians, the Semitic people, the Semitic nomads. We know that the Olmecs are going to have a huge influence on the development of civilizations who follow them, like the Maya, like the Aztec. The Olmecs spread their influence through military force and trade. And we're going to see the influence of Olmec society on other civilizations with the growth of maize as an important crop. We're going to see the building of ceremonial centers, the use of calendars, and their use of human sacrifice and bloodletting. The Olmecs collapse after 400 BCE, and their demise is kind of shrouded in mystery. Historians believe they may have destroyed their own capitals because of civil war or civil conflict, because they doubted the effectiveness of the ruling elite. Let's talk about the heirs of the Olmecs. So an example of a group of people who would be the heirs of the Olmec would be the Maya. And you can call them the Maya or the Mayans. So the Maya emerge after the Olmecs disappear. The Maya emerge after the Olmecs disappear. When that light change, it lights up my face like a light bulb. And my forehead is already big enough, people. So when that light changes, it goes megawatt. I guess I could close my window, but then I would lose like that natural light. And you know I'm trying to be a YouTuber. I'm not at all. I only do this for you. I used to just do recorded videos that didn't show my face. But students, they didn't really watch them. So I figure you want to see my face, want to see my mouth moving? Okay, you win. You got it. All right. So the Maya. The Maya emerged after the disappearance of the Olmecs, and to aid in the agricultural productivity, the Maya are actually going to do what we call terracing the hillside. So basically what they do is, I don't have a dry erase board. I don't really know why I turned around because I knew it was nothing in this office. They basically cut steps into a hillside. So a hillside is like round. And what the Maya do is they cut steps into the hillside. And when they cut these steps into the hillside, it's going to allow them to trap silt, S-I-L-T. And silt is like this mineral rich top layer of soil that's going to allow the Maya to increase their agricultural productivity. Again, anytime we increase our agricultural productivity, we're going to see an increase in population. Some of the crops that the Maya are going to be growing, producing, would definitely be maize, because remember we said that's going to be one of the traditions of the Olmecs. That's one of their legacies. They give us maize, but they're also going to grow cotton and cacao. The Maya organized themselves into small city kingdoms or small city states. And the most important of these small city kingdoms is Tikal, Tikal. Tikal, Tikal. Tikal is a large city with a population of probably about 40,000, and they're going to serve as an important ceremonial center for the Maya. The Maya are very warlike. They fought constantly, but their goal was probably not to kill so much as their goal was to capture warriors, bring them back to their respective kingdoms, and make them serve as like sacrificial victims to the Mayan gods. Because the idea is the bloodletting or the human sacrifice keeps the gods happy. If we keep the gods happy, the gods will keep us happy by ensuring that we have agricultural productivity and that we are blessed. Around the 9th century, Chichen Itza, Chichenitza, which is a Mayan state in the northern Yucatan, they decide to stop killing their captured warriors and they start incorporating them into their society to build a stronger, more capable society. By the 11th century, Chichen Itza has created a loose empire with some political stability in the northern Yucatan. With the exception of Chichen Itza, by 800 CE, the Mayan cities start to decline. It's a myriad, you like that word, don't you? A myriad of reasons for the decline of Chichen Itza. They can include invasion, civil war, failure of the water system, spread of disease, earthquakes, soil problems. So it wasn't just one single reason that contributed to the decline of the Maya. Instead, it's probably a combination of reasons. The Maya, I would know that their two most significant achievements are going to be, one, their calendar. They have a perfect solar calendar, and it's more efficient than all the other calendars. And they have a writing system. Their writing system is the most flexible and sophisticated of all the early American writing systems. Yeah, that's what I know about the Maya. And again, the Maya are the heirs of the Olmecs. So they're building upon and continuing many of the traditions that the Olmecs had already started. Mayan religious thought. So the Maya have a story of creation. So I broke my ankle. And this boot is so heavy. Like, oh my God. And it's like dragging my foot down underneath this desk. I should probably prop it up, but I'm trying to record these lectures and move on with my life. All right, so Mayan religious thought. The Mayan story of creation is known as Popol Vuh, Popolvuh. The Mayan story of creation is Popol Vuh. The Mayan story of creation says that human beings, the gods created human beings out of maize and water, so out of corn and water. So again, that shows us the importance of corn, maize, to Mayan civilization. Yep. Popol Vuh, Mayan creation myth that says that the gods created humans out of corn and water. And remember, we don't judge other people's myths and story of creations, because if you're a Christian, you are like me and you believe that God spit into some dirt and formed man. And then he took man, Adam, and he took rib from him and he made a whole woman named Eve. So we don't judge other people's creation myths, creation stories, religions, whatever, because the whole purpose of religion is faith. So keep it moving. All right. We talked about religious beliefs as they relate to bloodletting already, and that's just the Mayan beliefs carried on from the Olmecs that says if we shed blood, it's going to encourage the gods to bless us and keep us happy. Got it? All right. Let's talk about the Teotihuacan. So the Teotihuacan, Teotihuacan, the Teotihuacan are also heirs of the Olmecs, and they're located in the northern part of Mesoamerica. So the Teotihuacan are the earliest center of society in the Valley of Mexico. At its peak during 500 CE, the Teotihuacan was the sixth largest city in the world. They worship the sun and the moon gods, and they have a pyramid of the sun. So the pyramid of the sun is very similar to, like, the significance of the pyramid of the sun is very similar to the significance of the pyramid associated with the Egyptian pharaohs. So the pyramid of the sun is going to be the largest structure in Mesoamerica, and it reflects the authority exercised by the rulers of the Teotihuacan. So again, Teotihuacan, largest structure in Mesoamerica, and it reflects the authority exercised by the rulers of the Teotihuacan. The Teotihuacan are known for their involvement in interregional trade, like that's between regions, interregional trade. It's represented by merchants from all over Mexico coming to engage in trade in these city markets. The Teotihuacan held a lot of power, yet they're not believed to be very warlike. And they held so much influence, they held so much power, despite not having like an iron fist like the Maya or the Aztec, because they, like, their wealth, their influence came from the fact that they had the ability to create fine goods for the market. Like, they created great stuff for trade markets. So they held a lot of influence. They also utilized the Olmec ball game. They use the Olmec calendar. They worship earth and rain gods, and they believe in human bloodletting or human sacrifice, just like the Olmecs did. This is the conclusion of part 1, chapter 4. I'll just finish it. So we'll go ahead and cover South America in this part 2, since it's only 18 minutes at this point. I'll just finish it. So let's talk about the early societies of South America. So remember I told you that I would go ahead and associate the cultures with the region. So Olmec, Maya, Teotihuacan equals Mesoamerica. The civilizations that we're going to talk about that are associated with South America, the Andean, Andean cultures, are the Chavin and the Mochica. So let's talk about first, let's go ahead and state that these cultures, the civilizations, arise independently from early Mesoamerican society. They existed at the same time, but they are not influenced by one another. They are not going to arise as a result of the other. They arise completely separately, because remember, these civilizations in the hemisphere lack large domesticated animals, and they're not going to have wheeled vehicles because they lack large domesticated animals. So, and think about, because of that, think about the geography. Like I keep saying Andean regions or South American. Andean means that the Andes mountain range, Andes, the Andes mountain range is going to be like a logistic nightmare to engage in trade. So that's another reason it's not happening. So geography and a lack of pack animals are going to be why Mesoamerican and Andean or South American civilizations arise independently of one another. Cool. So moral of the story is there is no long distance trade between these two regions. Food staples in the Andean or the South American regions are going to include beans, peanuts, sweet potatoes, and they also do a lot of fishing. The Chavin, Chavin, the Chavin cult is an Andean religion that is very popular. And might have been possible that it was so popular as a result of being a new religion. It's going to lead to more complex societies and the building of ceremonial centers. We do know that cities begin to appear after the disappearance of the Chavin cult. So I'd put that in my notes. I'd put cities begin to appear after the disappearance of the Chavin cult. So we don't know a lot about the early Andean societies because they didn't use a form of writing. We only have their artwork to depict their values and beliefs in society. We know that they are believed to have relied very heavily on warfare to maintain order and stability. Let's talk about the Andean culture known as the Mochica. So the Mochica are our last civilization that we'll talk about today. They are an early Andean state, meaning they live in the Andes mountain region, and they dominate northern Peru. They leave behind detailed artworks, which depicts like major gods and demons. And the moral of this story, the main thing I know about the Mochica, Mochica, is that they're one of the first Andean societies to create a politically unified regional state through conquest. Say that again. So the Mochica are one of the first Andean states to create a politically unified regional state through conquest. First Andean state to create a politically unified regional state through conquest. As a result of geography, like despite the fact that the Mochica created the first politically unified regional state through conquest, they're not able to control the entire Andean region. And that's because of the mountains. So because of geography, no single state of these early Andean cultures is going to be able to establish control over the entire region. So as a result, we're going to see these Andean civilizations be very different. All right, lovies, that is the conclusion of Chapter 4, the Americas. We talked about Mesoamerican civilizations ranging from the Olmecs to the Maya to the Teotihuacan. And we also talked about the Andean cultures of the Chavin cult as well as the Mochica. Remember, Western Hemisphere civilizations, like the Americas, they're definitely going to be different because they lack large domesticated animals, which means their labor is going to be more labor intensive, but it also means that they arise independently. Their development is not influenced like between those Mesoamerican regions and the Andean regions. All right, lovies, that's it. Hope you're having a great day. I love you unconditionally. Bye.